Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to this RTS Futures session on how to get into digital producing. My name's Gemma, I'm a freelance producer working within unscripted TV and I'll be hosting today's session. Digital is now a huge part of how audiences discover and engage with television, but for many people the route into digital producing can feel unclear. So today we're going to break that down and help make it feel a bit more accessible. We're lucky today to be joined by a brilliant panel with experience across entertainment, reality TV, live events, and branded content. I'll ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves, your role, and a couple of productions you've worked on. Let's start with you, James.
Hello, I'm James. I'm a senior digital producer currently working at Banner J, and some of the shows that I've worked on are Love Island, Big Brother, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Amazing. Thank you, James. I'll come to you next, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm a freelance digital assistant producer and I'm currently working on Love Island. Other productions that I've worked on are I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Saturday Night Takeaway, and Loose Women.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hannah. And next, Lainey.
Hello, I'm Lainey. I'm a junior development researcher at Lifted Entertainment, which is one of ITV Studios labels. And I've worked on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, Celebrity Sabotage, and Nobody's Fool.
Brilliant, thank you. And last but not least, Emma.
Hi, I'm Emma. I'm a freelance digital shooting producer, and I work in a range of things: branded content, live broadcast, digital first formats. I'm currently working with Lab Bible on YouTube long form formats, but I've worked with various sporting events and broadcasters.
Amazing. Thanks, Emma. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's start by understanding what digital producing actually means in practice. So I'll come to you first again, James. If someone asked what a digital producer does, how would you explain it?
I mean, in the job sense, I would say it's to give TV shows kind of like a presence online, whether that be through obviously using show footage, creating original content, or even integrating social media with like something to do with the show, like maybe like a vote or a comment that you leave informs something on the show. But in terms of like practicality, as though what we do, I think I would describe our role as very much like a jack of all trades. Like in production, you obviously have departments that specialize in certain things, but I think where digital is beginning to grow as its own entity, you'll often find yourself doing many of these roles yourself, whether it be producing, editing, shooting, reporting, like coming up with ideas, developing them. So yeah, definitely a bit of everything.
That's a really helpful insight. Thank you. And Hannah, what platforms or social media sites do you primarily work on?
So, as digital assistant producer, I work across all the social platforms. So that's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, but as well as that, it's also doing the YouTubes. And if a show has an app like Love Island does, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, it's also running that. So that's important for example, for I'm a Celeb. Every episode, the viewers at home will have to vote for which celeb they want to do the trial. So that app needs to be fresh all the time with lots of content in so that people stay engaged and then use that to vote.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. And Emma, would you say digital is usually promotional, editorial, or standalone content?
Yeah, so digital content can range from TV, like cut downs from TV shows or formats or working with influencers and celebrities. So I work with a range of different types of digital content. So I think it really ranges as a promotional, editorial, or standalone. It really just depends on what the content target is and how they're appealing to the audiences.
Amazing, thank you. And Lainey, how closely do digital teams work with editorial and production teams?
So from what I've seen, you work very, very closely. I'm still very much learning as well about digital producing because I'm sort of entry level. But from what I've seen in my experience with the production teams, you're kind of often relying on them to have footage to work with. So yeah, you need them to deliver the shows that you might need to edit for digital platforms. And then also like editorially as well. From my experience, it's important for people who work in the editorial team to kind of have an eye on what's going out on the digital platforms to make sure it kind of aligns with the narrative of the show. So yeah, from what I've seen, it's you work very, very closely with those teams when you're in digital producing.
And James, how would you say success gets measured within digital? What metrics or signs tell you content is working?
I think like overall it can vary by the campaign that you're working on and the show, because whilst one show's primary aim might be to build a bigger following, another show's aim that's maybe more already established is to reach more eyes. Because obviously if we're talking show content, the bottom line is we're always trying to get the show exposure. I think for me personally, from projects that I've worked on, I would say reach is the most important metric. Now, what reach is the amount of people, like individuals, that have viewed your post at least once. So it works differently from views, because if I was to view a video 3 times, that's 3 views, but the reach would just be 1, because I'm obviously one person. And I think that's a really important metric to see truly how many eyes are coming across your content, which you can then obviously compare with the followers that you have and with the engagement that you're kind of getting as well. The work that I'm doing at Banijay at the moment, I started here about 3 or 4 months ago, is kind of looking more broadly at the platforms and what they kind of, how their algorithm works and basically how to get onto the algorithm. And through doing a lot of that work, one thing that I'm currently finding is that comments, especially on Facebook and Instagram, are more important than ever, because Meta, who obviously own Facebook, Instagram, they're prioritizing useful and meaningful interaction, which means a post that elicits comments would be classed as useful, meaningful, and therefore more likely to be pushed in the algorithm. So yeah, I definitely say reach. And then at the moment, comments especially are really important metrics on how we measure the success of our campaigns.
That's a really interesting point. Thanks, James. Emma, what do people often misunderstand about working in digital?
Sometimes when you say that you work in digital, people just assume you flick your phone up and that's content done for the day and then you can just clock off. But it really depends on what the production is. So I worked on The Neighborhood, which was part of Lifted Entertainment. And that was actually shot last year. And a lot of that is when you're trying to plan for digital, you want it to be showing the behind the scenes stories of what's going on in the show then and there. But it being pre-recorded is quite difficult to kind of follow trends or do trending sounds and trying to see what would capture the audience then and there. So that's a lot of strategy thinking about that. You've got to think of and because you can't think of the trends, you've just got to think of how to be creative with that. You've also got the branded content side of it, where the sponsors wanted some content as well. So it's thinking about how to balance the show and the brands and how they will align together and how the content comes across to please the client, the show, the contributors, everyone that's putting all their energy towards it. They want the best for each of their sides. You've got to be thinking about that. You've got like live events where like if I've been working with HSBC Sevens rugby, and that content is going out then and there because the sporting event happens. You can't just delay it. You've got to really think on the go, think what trends are going on and see if anything aligns with it. Also think of when you've created the content, what hook to put on it to try and engage the audiences. And then you've also got digital first platforms like Lad Bible, where they're creating long form content. That's got to be planned kind of like film and TV in advance to know what you're kind of getting out from it. But again, it's not a situation where you just turn up, shoot it, and then hope for the best. There's a lot of planning, preparation teams going towards it. So it's definitely not just get your phone up, shoot it, and pop off home.
Yeah, so much is obviously going into it. Hannah, what made digital appeal to you?
I think quite a lot of things really. So I had worked in TV already or as a runner, and I'd tried out lots of different avenues and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I tried out cameras, I tried out floor managing, production. And then when I did stumble across digital, I was like, oh my goodness, this is everything that I wanted from a job. Like no day is the same. You go in and you have no idea what's going to be put in front of you. You've no idea what the episode is going to look like. And you just have to quickly come up with content, come up with ideas for it. And it's just so exciting, and it's such a rush, and you're with other like-minded people bouncing ideas off of each other, and you're able to be so creative. Whereas in my previous jobs, I didn't realize that I was pining after something creative. And then as soon as I had my first day in digital, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is so for me. And like I said earlier, I knew that I really liked editing. So at university, I studied media studies, and I was editing on Avid, but I couldn't get to grips with it. So then finding out that digital mainly use Premiere Pro, that was just like, it just ticked every single box. But yeah, I do just feel very grateful that I genuinely can say that I go to work excited, where so many people are in jobs that they don't like. And yeah, I'm just so lucky that I've found this.
Oh, I love that. Leonie, what surprised you most about digital when you first started?
I think I would say one thing is kind of how quickly you have to work, particularly if it's like a live show or like a fast turnaround show. So you have to work quickly, but also like have that high attention to detail. Another thing as well, I think, is like just the range of stuff that digital can cover as well, like having to do graphic design work. I've helped do some graphic design for the Lifted Careers like social page, that sort of thing. But then also like doing editing for show launches, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's what surprised me, is the range of stuff that you can be doing in digital.
And a question to you all, really. Obviously you all freelance, but would you say that there's a lot of staff roles available in digital?
Yeah, I think it depends the route that you choose to go down, because if you're looking at like a production company, a channel, or an agency who, are potentially working across a slate of shows, then there definitely are permanent opportunities there. Like if you look at BBC, Channel 4, even here at Banijay, like a large in-house team who are all permanent. But I guess it kind of depends on, the direction you want to go in. I obviously spent like really up until the last, like, I'd say few months, like doing kind of going from show to show. Because if you work on like a Love Island, you'll have like a month lead up, and then the day the show ends, it's kind of like, in a digital sense, your work is done, and then you kind of move on to the next show. And I think in that as well, there's benefits to both. If you do permanent, there's chance to see something out from beginning to end and really immerse yourself in the project. But then also freelance has its benefits in that, like, you get to come onto these shows, that can maybe be quite intense when they're TXing, like obviously in the height of the excitement, and then move on and do it again on the next one.
Off from the stability note, I actually started off working as a shooting editor for Global Entertainment, which owns like Capital Radio and Heart Radio, and working in the video team for that. And I think it's ironic because it's a radio station, but they want video content. And you'll find most like entertainment houses will have those video sections, video teams to work with. And I also think there's so many digital production companies that are coming up now that are helping the broadcast houses. So I've worked with like Curly Media, who works with Sky and works with Netflix, and they'll take whatever is packaged for the shows. So I recently did At Home with the Furies for Netflix and turn those into social packages. And they are a digital first production house, which has producers, has editors, all of that stuff, and they are fully employed. And I think what's great about being employed is that you learn. You're in a stable position. You don't have to worry about the finances and finding your next job and doing all of that. I think that's great for when you're getting into it, because you've got that stability to learn off your peers and you know what's coming next. And that's great when you're coming into the industry, and you've got rent to pay, you've got bills to pay. It is quite scary if you just jump in that freelance pool. And I think you learning when you're employed has so many benefits, and then you make loads of connections there as well. With freelance, you do have to do a lot of the grind to make those connections, whereas when you're employed, there's just so many opportunities there, as well as being freelance. So there is benefits to both. avenues to go down. And digital is ever expanding. So there are so many roles that are always going and so many shows coming up. And again, we're all chronically online, so it all works eventually.
Absolutely, that's really helpful insight. Thank you, Emma. So now we have a better understanding of the role. The next big question is, how do you actually get in? So there's obviously no single route into digital producing. I'd love to hear what made you want to work in digital and how you got started. So I'll come to you first, Leonie. What kind of made digital appeal to you?
Yeah, so it's kind of been a funny route for me because at the moment I'm working as a junior development researcher. So my main role is working with the development team at Lifted, which is coming up with ideas for shows and kind of pitching those to commissioners. But as I was in kind of a junior role, I really wanted to try lots of different things and talk to lots of different teams. So that's how I got talking to the digital team, and they were really lovely and kind of got me on board to help them with different shows and kind of help with bits and bobs that I could do with my skill set, and it would help me develop my skill set too. So that's where I've really enjoyed it so far. And I would just say, if you're interested in digital producing, it's not always just a straight into an entry level role. It could be like me, where you're already working for a company, you just get talking to different people, and then you find yourself in a position doing digital producing.
Love that. Thank you. Hannah, what made you want to work within digital?
So I was already working in TV, and I tried lots of different departments. And one day when I was on Love Island, I was just saying to my friends, I was like, oh, I really wish I could do a job that involves editing, but I personally just can't get on with Avid. Like, that software just for me was just a bit too much. But then someone turned around and was like, oh, you do realize the digital team, they only use Premiere Pro. And I was like, that is what I love doing. I love editing on Premiere Pro. So it was Frankie, who was a senior at the time, who's now head of digital. He was really kind and allowed me to actually shadowed James. And their whole team, they were so kind to me and gave me lots of tips and just let me just knock on their door whenever I had a free moment and shadow and learn from them. And then, yeah, it just went on from there, really. I just ensured to keep in contact with everybody, and I got everybody's emails and LinkedIn accounts, and just made sure they knew that I really wanted to work in digital. And then I was lucky to wind up here.
Amazing, thank you. And good tip to hear that you use Premiere too.
Yeah.
And Emma, why did digital appeal to you?
So for me, I just in college always was on YouTube, and I was always watching all those like YouTubers and all their channels and stuff. So when I went to university, I wanted to do filmmaking, something creative. But when I got there, it's funny that you say that, Hannah. I just didn't like Avid, and I don't know, it was too creative, and it was too not too creative. It was very, what is the meaning of the color red, and very English lit, whereas I just really enjoyed um capturing moments, capturing people, and just being and just creating memories. So I've always just loved stories of people, and I find so I actually switched my degree to psychology because I think I'm a people person, and I think with digital it's kind of expressing the real life and the moment in the now. So as a videographer and producer, I don't really work in film or TV. I work alongside it to do the behind the scenes or digital content that's showing the life of film and TV. But I just love being in the now, and I think that's how I kind of got into digital rather than film and TV, because I enjoy showing people how talented everyone is, and just life stories in general. So that's how I got into it, really.
That's really cool. Thank you, Emma. And finally, I'll come to you, James.
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled into digital by chance. I just finished my A levels and knew I wanted to do something creative. I was always drawn to TV, but obviously didn't have many ideas of the different roles. And it was the summer after my A levels that I stumbled upon ITV's apprenticeship scheme, and they were offering an apprenticeship in online editorial for entertainment, which is basically working within the digital team. And I'd done media and IT for A levels. I'd done like a module on social media. I'd created a few like bits of social content for my school, like video content. So I just kind of applied to that because I was like, I feel like my skill set and my interests do gear towards that direction. Was very fortunate to get the apprenticeship on the digital team. And then kind of just worked my way through from there, like was in that team for a year and then went freelance from there with all the skills that I'd learned. But I think in terms of what really drew me to it, especially during the application process, was on we had to create a presentation, and on the brief we were given by ITV, it said that their motto is all about pushing the boundaries and being innovative. And I think that quote has always stayed with me, because I think that is what social working in social and digital is in a nutshell. Like, we don't often work to the same time frames that maybe like TV do, or like the production do, like in the sense of like we have the ability to be reactive and kind of, as Emma said, like be in the now. Like, you can jump on a trend as it's happening, and therefore really like push the boundaries, be creative in how you do it. So yeah, very grateful that I obviously found the apprenticeship and that it's led me to here.
Amazing. Thank you, James. And to you all, really, would you say that you need to be based in London to be able to work in digital?
I personally don't think so. So I'm based in Hertfordshire, which obviously isn't far from London. But I think like the past few years in the digital space, like for example, Channel 4's digital team now primarily work in Leeds. They all moved there. I think it was late 2019 or maybe just a bit before that. And then you've obviously got Manchester, like a lot of shows are filmed there. Like, I definitely do think where productions are beginning to branch out, I think digital is following that. Obviously, MasterChef is now shot in Birmingham. So I don't think you have to be in or near London necessarily for those opportunities.
I
Amazing.
agree, yeah. I agree with James there. I don't think you have to be in London. Again, depending on where you're wanting to go, I know there's a lot of TV people here, but I predominantly work in sports digital as well, and sports is worldwide. So um, I always say my base is Birmingham, London, because Midlands is where English sport happens quite a lot, and I know quite a lot of videographers and sports producers that will work from home, because you'll always have the like football national league or whatever sport there is, there will be a grassroots club that people can join and get their hands in on doing digital content just for them, and that's another in as well. If you're wanting to start out, it's just whatever you're passionate about, really, when you're following it through. But
Great.
I guess TV and film, yeah, with TV and film, um, studios and locations are across the country, so I think it's quite open for being around the country.
That's really helpful to know. Thank you, guys. So let's discuss what the work really looks like day to day. Leonie, what does a typical day working in digital look like for you?
So for me, because I'm kind of balancing my time between my development role and then also working with digital as well, it's kind of prioritizing the different tasks that I need to get done in the day. But with what I've been doing for digital, it's been a lot of video editing. So working on Premiere Pro a lot, and kind of I've been doing a lot of like subtitling work on Premiere Pro, which it might sound weird, but I really, really enjoy doing subtitling because I just find it like a really satisfying task. But yeah, so that my day to day is when I'm working for digital is doing a lot of video editing on Premiere Pro.
With Premiere, is that something that you've picked up on the job, or is that something you knew pre going into it?
Yeah, so I didn't actually have much experience video editing before I joined Lifted. And yeah, so it's been really great. Hannah mentioned Frankie earlier, who's the head of digital at Lifted, and he's been really great. He's been giving me a lot of help with developing my skills on Premiere Pro, and kind of giving me tasks that will really help me develop my skills and always push a bit further. Because with Premiere, it's like you think you understand how to use it, and then there's always something like more to learn. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience with it.
That's really good to know that it's something that you can pick up when you're actually on the job. James, what would you say is the most enjoyable part of the role for you, and what part can feel a bit more of a struggle?
I think in terms of the most enjoyable part of the role, I think it is like I say quote unquote freedom, because obviously everything still has to play by some form of rule. But I mean that in terms of like kind of what I was saying earlier, like the reactivity element, and really feeling like you kind of build a connection with your audience. Like Love Island, for example, obviously has quite a large fan base. And a couple of years ago, when I was digital producing on it, like we were always trying to find new ways to like use TikTok sounds or trends to like really speak to the audience and be like, we speak the same language as you. Like we kind of like we resonate with you, and seeing the kind of response to that and all of the comments is obviously so lovely, because it means you're doing something right. But then that kind of also links to the potentially more difficult part of the job, is the instant gratification, whether it be both ends. Like you post something on social media, and within seconds of it going up, you are going to get feedback, whether it be good or bad. And obviously you're always opting for the good, but that isn't always the case. And whether it be like a small error you've missed, like we were talking about subtitles, when you're doing them so much, it can sometimes, one can maybe slip through the net. I think getting that instant gratification and kind of knowing that once it's out there, it's going to be seen within seconds, you have to obviously be really mindful of that, because that can be a bit of a pain.
Hannah, what task did you start with early on in your career?
So my first role as digital researcher, that was on Saturday Night Takeaway, and it was just getting the grips of editing, really. So it was sort of like a hybrid between being a runner and then just helping out the team where I could. But yeah, it was just learning subtitling and branding and everything. And the tone of voice of the show is really important as well. So, for example, Saturday Night Takeaway's got a completely different tone of voice to like Loose Women. And it was just a really helpful learning experience.
And Emma, how much would you say is creative versus strategy versus managing people?
Because digital is so in the now, I think it's just a balance of all three of those things. Again, depending on what content you're working on. I've been on shoots where I've been a solo shooting producer. For example, I was working with Lad Bible, and they had a reactive call in where they had time with Keir Starmer, and we had to go the next day. He's the Prime Minister. He only has a small amount of time. We had 10 minutes with him, and it was around when Adolescence was coming out. So everyone wanted to get his kind of take on that and how he was going to use the show and work around the kind of problems that was coming about at that time. And in terms of managing people, it was just me and the marketer and a journalist that was allowed into the room. So there isn't much managing when there's only a small team there. And it's quite on the go. You've got to think of creativity yourself. You've got to be very quick thinking, and you've just got to try and do your best and try and get whatever content you can out of it. But then on the other hand, you've got really big productions where it was Sir David Attenborough's birthday, and that with the BBC, you've got a King's speech going on, you've got 100-year-old man coming in, you've got contributors coming in to give happy birthday thanks and all of that. So that it really spans depending on the content. But first and foremost, it will always be creative. The digital space is showing what is in the now, and you want to show it in the most creative way to capture the audience and capture the content in the best way possible. The strategy is also there because you also want people to see it, and you want it to pop up on people's algorithms, but at the end of the day, you just want to be able to promote what you're promoting in the best way possible, as creative as you can and as quick as you can, really, just to get all the live events out there.
Amazing, thank you. And for some advice now, James, if someone wants to work within digital, what skills should they focus on developing right now?
I mean, I think it's obviously already come up a lot, but I'm going to say it again. Premiere. I definitely recommend just like getting to grips and learning the basics of both Premiere Pro and Photoshop. Like within the industry, they're the most commonly used software for editing, and it just makes it so much easier if you're going in and you at least have like a basic kind of knowledge of it. Like when I was interviewing for my apprenticeship, they gave me an impromptu task in the interview to edit a clip on Premiere, and it was the most horrendous experience because I was just like, how do I drag it into the timeline? So, like, you never want that level of it. It's nice to have a basic understanding, but I also think a more important one is just to start looking at your social media feeds in more of like a criticizing way. Like I think social media as a culture has kind of taught us like watch something for 3 seconds, scroll, look at something for 2 seconds, scroll. Like more often than not, we'll mindlessly be on our phones and probably couldn't say the last 5 things we'd seen. And I think the importance of working in digital is actually understanding why brands do things, why shows do things. And I think just by slowing down, looking at something and being like, I wonder why they've posted that. Is it, to promote something? Is it to target a certain audience? Like, I think having that kind of more constructed understanding of why things are posted can really give you like a leg up when it comes to like interviewing, because if you've got examples to hand and a good like broad reference point of like posts you've seen, I think it gives you like a really good advantage.
That's a really helpful point, actually. And Emma, off the back of that, would you say it's worth building a personal social media portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're working in digital, so it makes sense, doesn't it? And I think if you want to work in digital, I think you should do it because I mean, I feel like we're all chronically online, so if you enjoy doing that, I think you should thrive in it, darlings. So building a personal social media profile is definitely up there. It's also fun, and also you've got to be enjoying what you're doing. It kind of helps you develop your own creative juices if you do something for yourself as well. And also when you're applying for jobs, it's just, especially with digital, you say they'll ask for a portfolio. What's better than just sending an Instagram highlights reel of the stuff that you've literally worked on, because then it also shows the engagement of the post that's been posted, and it's quite nice to just be proud of what you're doing. So definitely, it is time consuming, I will tell you that, but it is worth it because you've just got a, a grid of all the stuff that you're proud of and that you've worked towards too. So it's quite nice to have it for yourself and to get work.
Hannah, as a freelancer, what do you think gets people booked on jobs again and again?
I think LinkedIn is very important. I mean, I'm not the best personally at promoting myself on LinkedIn, but I know so many people get jobs literally just from LinkedIn alone. So it is definitely very important to have a really good portfolio on there, but also just being really reliable and just if you're really passionate about wanting to work in digital and to work your way up, I'd say always just ask for what else can be done. So, for example, like when I was doing the app for Love Island my first time, I was like, oh, I love doing this so much, but I also really want to do work in the TX digital producing role. So I would then also ask if I can, as well as doing my role, can I help out on socials? Can I take this reel? Can I take that? So I think just always being really eager to want to learn more, and just if you're lucky enough to be on a job, you'll be in a team with very talented people. Just use that as much as you can, soak up all their knowledge and ask questions. And definitely don't be afraid to ask stupid questions, because there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, that enthusiasm is so important, isn't it? Lainey, what do you know now that you wish you had known when starting out?
I would say probably just to keep an open mind about the route into the industry, because I feel like there's so many different ways that you can get your foot in the door, and that's kind of the key thing. Is particularly if you are entry level, like don't turn potential roles down, like department runners or things like that, like those entry level positions, because once you get your foot in the door, it's so much easier to talk to people and like get those connections. And like that's kind of where I've been able to step into digital producing, because I was just in the room with the people that are doing digital content. So yeah, that's something that I kind of didn't quite realize until now in my career. Like often there won't be kind of the perfect role when you're first starting out. You kind of have to work at it and you get there eventually.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to ask you all, what is your most memorable day working in digital? So I'll start with you, Emma.
For me, will have to be working on the HSBC Sevens tournament. So with digital, it can be long days, as with any TV and film shoots. And with rugby sevens, it's a full day of world teams competing at these various events. So I remember flying to LA, being jet lagged, having to set up a shoot the next day at 7 a.m., setting up all the cameras, making sure the contributors were coming along. And then when we got to the interviews, dealing with the interviews, making sure all the rushers were coming into the DIT, moving into next locations, having the best food, just getting on with all the contributors and getting the vibe of the event, and just meeting so many different parts of the crew, the production, the cam ops, the editors, the DIT, even the caterers. Like everyone's just having a good laugh, and the sun was shining. But so even though it's long days, I feel like productions with the best people make the days worth it. So I will say a lot of sporting events is like that. It's quite tiring. It's like 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. because that's when the events roll. But when you roll with it, you're all kind of delirious at the end together, but it's always fun.
And when you're having fun, it just goes so fast, doesn't it? Amazing that you get to travel so much with work too. I'll come to you next, Hannah.
Um, I've been lucky to have quite a lot of great days, obviously. I'd say my first one that comes to mind is my first day on Saturday Night Takeaway, because that was my first ever actual digital job. And I was just, I remember being in the studio watching the rehearsal happen, being like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm here. Like it was just a real moment where I was like, what is happening? And then also I've done quite a few Love Islands now, and I just love just all become like one little family, like your team. You all become so close. So it's so nice to just go in to work, and then you watch the episode and you come up with ideas together, brainstorm with each other, and then you go back and you're just in fits of laughter because you've just made new friends, and it's just a really lovely experience. Like just working away and just making friends for life. And yeah, so there was so many happy memories from that.
Oh, I love that. It is really nice when you're working away on location. You just bond so nicely, don't you? James?
I'd probably say the first one that comes to mind was when I did I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in 2023. Just to give like a bit of context to it, I was working on Big Brother at the time, and there was a change within the team, and I got asked if last minute I could fly out to Australia straight after Big Brother finished and go and work on the series. And I was obviously like, well, of course. So I finished Big Brother on the Friday, like at like 1 o'clock in the morning into Saturday, and then flew out first thing Sunday morning. And I think where I'd kind of been in that, like, I think when you're in freelance mode, you're kind of in autopilot, like you're kind of just like, next job, do it. Like it's kind of something I'm trying to do more recently, not take anything in. And it was a few days after I'd got there, we'd gone up to film on like the decking where obviously Ant and Dec do all of their live bits from. And when I kind of like walked onto it, I just had this moment of like, oh my God, like I literally grew up watching this show like with my parents, and now I'm literally stood on the set. And I think it is kind of that thing of like when you know, have been doing it for a certain amount of time, sometimes you actually forget to just step back and look at what you are doing. And I think that is the moment that comes, like even more than when I first joined. I think just having that moment of reflection of like how grateful I felt, and like Hannah had said, like, you know, to wake up and actually enjoy the job you do and love it and have experience to these things that like when I was sat there watching it when I was 8 years old, would never imagine one day I'd be stood on it, like filming social content. Like, I think that is probably like my best memory that comes to mind.
Oh, that's incredible, James. And finally, Lainey?
I think for me, it's probably the kind of the work that I've done on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, South Africa, that was on this year, because that was the first time I kind of started working on a show and then kind of saw it through to the end as well, which was really cool. So I was actually with Hannah at a launch event for that show, and it was really cool. Just seeing like all of the different celebrities was cool, and then just seeing how the digital team work and how quickly they have to think of things on their feet and that sort of thing. So that was great. And then just like helping with editing and stuff as the show was on air, and then going to the live final and helping with the digital content there. It was just amazing. Like it makes you have so much like excitement and love for kind of the work that you do when you kind of start from the beginning and get there to the end. Yeah. So that was great.
And what an iconic live final that was.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. To finish, I'd love to ask each of you one final question. What's one piece of advice you'd give someone trying to get into digital producing right now? Emma, I'll start with you if that's okay.
My one piece of advice is also kind of a life mantra as well. If you don't ask, you don't get. Digital is quite a hard, fast-paced environment, and if you want to get in, you do have to grind for it. Likewise, following Hannah's point, you've just got to learn off whoever you can and really soak in every event and project that you do, because you will always learn something new in it. No question is a stupid question. Everyone's learning from each other, and if you think you've learned it all, you definitely haven't. And I don't think that's the attitude that digital teams would want from you. You've got to get your head stuck in and just be really enthusiastic about it. So definitely ask a lot of questions, otherwise you're not going to get any responses. Things aren't handed to you, you've got to work for it.
Amazing advice. Thank you, Emma. Hannah?
I would say, yeah, quite similar to what Emma said, but also just networking is just so important. And similar as well to what Lainey said is don't reject a runner position just because you think, oh, well, I've just, I knew people that had graduated and they're like, oh, I don't want to go from directing my uni project to then being a runner. I should go in as director. And it's like, oh, no, it doesn't actually really work like that. Like people really value on-set experience, whether that's in film or TV. So I'd highly recommend, if you do want to get into digital and you can't seem to find an entry-level position, then definitely look into getting a runner position. And I know even that can be quite difficult in itself if you've got no previous experience, but just making sure in your CV you've got, if you can drive, that's an amazing skill for film runners. That is like the most important qualification they told me that you can get as a runner. And then just if you've ever had experience like working as a waiter or handling money or just customer service, like that is all really important skills to get you your first runner job, which will then get you into a space where you can network and then come over to digital.
Yeah, definitely. Transferable skills are so important, aren't they? James?
I would say the first one is like obviously just go for it. I think it's obviously so daunting when you're starting out and looking for a way in. I always kind of say like getting into the TV industry in general kind of feels like you're stood and there's like a tall wall in front of you and it feels like impossible. But then once you're in on the other side of that wall, it's like infinite opportunity and it like opens up a whole new world. But yes, I'd just say like if it's truly kind of what you want and what you're passionate about, go for it. But then that kind of also links to my other kind of bit of advice is make sure it is also what you kind of truly want. I think often I've maybe seen, even when I was applying myself, I think because people don't often understand the full spec or scope of what being a digital producer requires, I think some people maybe mistake it for like a good stepping stone into like a TV role, like whether it be actually in the like working on the show in like production or editorial. And it's like digital is such like there's so many specialist skills required, kind of like editing, copywriting, producing talent, that like it's not the kind of role that you can use like to step into something else, like you need to be so fully committed to it. Because obviously, as Hannah and Emma said, like it can, be quite intense and requires like a lot of effort put into it. So yeah, just definitely go for it and make sure it's 100% what you want to do as well.
That's some brilliant advice. Thank you, James. And finally, Leonie.
I would say probably sort of trying to get to grips with the practical skills, because I just think it is really useful from my experience if there's something that quickly needs doing and someone in the team is saying, oh, can someone quickly edit this or can someone quickly do that? It just is really helpful to just go, I know how to use Premiere, or I know how to use Photoshop, and it's just really quickly puts you above like the people that can't use those things when it comes to applying for roles. So I would say, yeah, just having a play around with the kind of platforms like Premiere and things and get to grips with those early on.
Amazing. Thank you. And thank you all so much for joining us today and for sharing your insights. You've been a brilliant panel. And thank you for watching this RTS event. I hope it's been helpful. Please do check the RTS website for upcoming RTS Futures events. And I hope this has made digital producing feel a bit more accessible and achievable. Thank you, guys.